Good afternoon, Excellencies, colleagues. It's great to see you, those in person here and those watching us online somewhere over there. I'm Karlis Bukovskis, I'm the director of the Latvian Institute of National Affairs, and this is the event which is poetically called Slovenia and Latvia Spacebound. And when you think of Latvia and Slovenia, of course, what are the common things that come to mind? Well, at the end we decided it must be something surrounding space, because we kind of share the same spaces. Well, the first fact, of course, that the Balkans and Baltics are traditionally confused. That's one thing. The second thing is that both Slovenia and Latvia, we are suffering from what I would call double confusion, because you get confused with Slovakia, we get confused with Lithuania as well. So in this case, try to locate us. We have had somewhat turbulent history with opening our bilateral embassies. We have now the Slovenian embassy here in Riga, with the ambassador Tomasz Matjasic chairing it. What is the important thing, of course, is the common economic space that we're sharing. That's, of course, the European Union. And there's a question, what is the common security space that we're sharing? That is, of course, NATO. What is the common geopolitical space and project that we're sharing? Three Seas Initiative. I wonder how many of you have heard that one before. Well, there are books, excellent. There are books available as well in Latvian. You can read them in English version. They're available also on online. Russia's continued attacks on Ukraine are the problem and is the challenge to our space of peace and prosperity. And of course, finally, the digital space is the one where our peoples can learn about each other. So in this case, there are a multiplicity of spaces that we have in common. And we have two great panels today ahead of us. One is on the future of geopolitical realities, and the other one is on the prospects of digital economy. And well, how else to overcome the spatial differences in this case? One is having a common geopolitical position, and the other is, of course, learning about each other online. So that's the version how to do that. Developing common digital projects for economic growth, to put it academically. But before we give space to our excellent and I must even say extraordinary speakers of today, I would like you to welcome Tine Šusterčić, project manager of the Center for European Perspective in Slovenia, a think tank. And this is our first full-fledged collaboration, but I very much hope not the last one.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to welcome you here today on behalf of the Center for European Perspective. I would also like to thank our partners, the Latvian Institute of International Affairs, who have been central in organizing this event and without whom we wouldn't be here today. The Center for European Perspective is a Slovenian governmental organization operating since 2006 at the initiative of the Slovenian Ministry of Foreign Affairs that works on enhancing European perspective through various projects on regional cooperation, peace and security, strategic communication, and we also co-organize Bled Strategic Forum, which is a leading international conference in Central and Southeastern Europe. Today's high-level discussion, Slovenia and Latvia Spacebound, reflects the time in which the future economic development of the EU is impossible to imagine without digital transformation. While Europe and the world are going through a profound geopolitical realignment, our digital future has thus become not only a question of economic growth and prosperity, but also a geopolitical one. We believe that closer cooperation with Central and Eastern Europe will enable us to better reach the full potential of digital transformation. But we also need to strengthen the transatlantic alliance to ensure that the digital transformation is rooted in fundamental common values of human rights, democratic accountability, and respect for the rule of law. A report, Center for European Perspective, published last November, also addressed some of these issues. It aims to contribute to the discussion on the EU's digital future and how to best achieve it. And you can find a copy of it in your folders. With that, I would like to thank our distinguished speakers for joining us and sharing your invaluable perspective on these key topics. I hope for a substantive and enjoyable discussion. Thank you.
Tina, thank you so much. We're so short and concise, both of us, so I'm extremely happy. Well, I hope that the speakers are also going to be extremely short and concise. Well, we have about 50 minutes, so in this case, there is a necessity for us to be dynamic as much as possible. I'm honored to be the moderator of the discussion, the presidential reflections, as we call it. Or post-presidential reflections, maybe in this case that would be more exact title, future of geopolitical realities. And we have two, well, I will dare to say legendary figures today joining us for the discussion. And first, of course, is the former president of the Republic of Slovenia. Yes, we see you, Borut Pahor. His Excellency, among many other things, has also been the Prime Minister of Slovenia and also a member of the European Parliament a long time in the past. So welcome. Do you see us? Do you hear us? Excellent. And former President of the Republic of Latvia, Valdis Zatlers, a well-renowned speaker, and I guess in Latvia he does not require much of the introduction as being a great commentator on foreign policy issues, both here and globally. So, in 15 minutes, I will stop talking now, and I will give the floor for our stars to shine. I kindly ask you to be limiting yourselves, both of you, for initial remarks of 7 minutes, because we have excellent audience in person here. So I'm looking forward to your questions. So please, colleagues, start thinking of the questions you want to ask. For the presidents to be on the same page from the very beginning, I asked them the question, a common question to answer. What are the new geopolitical challenges that Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine has caused to the Balkan region and to the Baltic region, respectively? So in this case, I am looking forward to your answers. And President Pahor, if I may kindly ask you to start. We are the hosts, you are the guests in this setup, and so in this case, please, the microphone is yours.
My dear friend, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Russia's aggression in Ukraine is changing the geopolitical landscape of the world and most of all of Europe. The war is still ongoing and has no end in sight. It is therefore impossible to make definitive assessments on the extent of the geopolitical changes the war will bring about. However, one thing is certain. What these geopolitical changes will be depends very much on the outcome of the war. If Russia wins, whatever that means, this will result in a period of lasting instability everywhere in the world, but especially in Europe. If Ukraine wins, whatever that means, some of the optimism for peace and stability that emerged after all the fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Warsaw Pact, and the dissolution of the Soviet Union will return to Europe. Now, since we don't have much time to start with for this debate, I would focus on 6 consequences that, in my view, are important for the future of Europe. And in my introductory statement, I would focus on Western Balkans, and later on, I would go also to the Baltic part of Europe. But my friend, former President Valdis, will I'm sure, focus on this. First consequence, there will be no peace and stability in Europe, in particular for some time to come. If the great changes brought about by the fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of Warsaw Pact, and the dissolution of the Soviet Union took place peacefully, perhaps the war in Ukraine is a historic sign that there is also an increased risk in the international community of the accumulated and concentrated problems in the world being resolved by force rather than peacefully. The consequence number 2, the war in Ukraine has underlined once again the importance of NATO. As long as the alliance between the United States and Europe is strong, those problems will be easier to resolve. Part of this alliance is the EU's increased responsibility to devote more focus to its security through its common security policy. This strategic autonomy is not directed against the United States, but is complementary and consistent with it. Consequence number 3, the war in Ukraine will accelerate the process of in-depth cooperation within the EU. I think so, I hope so. This will be a strong driver of change, including institutional change, leading to a more integrated EU. I believe that sooner or later, we will see a new convention on the future of EU. As we know, a new European constitution was drafted back in 2004 and then not adopted, but including because of the changed situation, there will be now, I think, I hope, more understanding of and more support for such and similar changes. Consequence number 4, Eurasia is emerging as a geopolitical space where China and Russia are joining forces. Both are united by autocracy and misgivings about the role of the West in world politics, and above all, by desire to increase their power in the world. One of the main questions is how the West, which maintains a one China policy, can prevent the possible military takeover of Taiwan and the start of a new military crisis in the world. Consequence number 5, after 3 decades of optimism that the fall of the Iron Curtain would usher in an era of lasting European peace and harmony, it seems that Europe will once again be divided by an Iron Curtain, let's say so. As was the case after the end of the Second World War, one of the characteristics of this division will be a different attitude towards democracy. The West will maintain and strengthen democracy, the East autocracy. The West will be united by democratic values, the East by Russian political and military power. So we will once again have an Iron Curtain and 2 blocs that will threaten each other, crippling the development prospects of both. And finally, number 6, the question is where the border between the 2 blocs will run in the Western Balkans. Although it is a complex issue, I believe that it depends largely on whether Serbia chooses Brussels or Moscow. For the time being, this decision has not been yet taken, certainly not irreversibly. If Serbia is pro-European, the prospect for peace and stability in the Western Balkans and for its integration into the EU will be greatly increased. Otherwise, new tensions, including security tensions, cannot be ruled out. I think that we should therefore do whatever is possible in our power to integrate Serbia into the West. I know how difficult it is. We will talk later on. That would be my final word for this purpose at the beginning of this debate. Thank you so much.
President Pahor, so thank you so much for the very concise, precise 6 points. I already have a lot of questions, but before I start asking them and before the audience starts asking additional inquiries, doing additional inquiries on what you just said, President Zatlers, what is your response? What are the geopolitical effects of Russia's attacks on Ukraine for the Baltics? And maybe you already have something to respond to President Pahor's statements.
Thank you very much for having this opportunity to speak to each other and to speak to this distinguished audience. And at first, I would like to say the Slovenia and Latvia is about the same size and mentality nations. And to my mind, it's pretty easy to understand each other. But we are surrounded by different regions. Balkans and Baltics are different. Right. Say we have our challenge as having, Russia as a neighbor, an aggressive Russia. You have the challenge of being still, in the post-Yugoslavian status, so to fix let's say, the internal gaps which have to be closed if you will go further to joining EU and NATO, all of you of Western Balkans. So about geopolitics, geopolitics is not a foreign policy. Foreign policy is just making your interests to work all over the world. Geopolitics is a question about power, the balance of power, and the challenge of this existing balance of power, which is done by Russia. What will be the end point? I don't know. I really don't know. Nobody knows. The only thing I understand that the way out is strengthening the European Union, strengthening Europe as a whole. And then we will have an economic power, and we will have a diplomatic power, and we also need a military power. And all the things of homework for the whole Europe must be done as soon as possible. A few points. Militarily, we have to increase our budgets. Everybody knows that, and we have found out that we are really, dependent on U.S. Military assistance. So there are other things, like common procurement for military purposes. And as well as, we can see that there are some good things happening, like United Air Force of Scandinavian countries. Better to say Nordic countries, yeah? Which is a very good thing. We have alliances of F-16s, we have alliances of Leopards, so something is going positively the right direction on military sphere. When it comes to the economic power, yes, Europe is strong, and we have the strong vision of how we should proceed. But we have missed one point. The monetary power. That's a challenge between, BRIC countries trying to create a new international currency used by, let's say, global South, maybe global East, and US dollar. We should strengthen euro as a global currency. That means having all the strong economies like Sweden, like Denmark, like Poland, to become users of euro. Strong euro is a good armament for the global South, because we have to attract global South. It's not about Russia. It's not about just confronting US and China. It's about which choice the global South will take and what we can offer them as partners, not just having follow us. I will not be sure that they will follow us. But if we say, let's do something together and we have some offers, this may change the geopolitics globally as well. I think one more thing is enlargement, and we have to stop talking about enlargement fatigue. Enlargement fatigue is just selfishness and laziness. Be sure, that if Sweden and Finland, especially Sweden, has given up their neutrality, it's a very strong move towards strong Europe. Now we have to have Western Balkans, because playing with Ukraine and Moldova being EU member states, that's a good thing. We offer them some future vision, but we have to do something in Balkans. Because, neither Europe, neither Western Balkans have done everything. We are both pretending that the process is going on. And I emphasize once again, pretending. We should do. And there are no other option, because the question on which side are you is the most important question. It's not anymore, let's see, maybe Russia wins and we'll stand with Russia. I can't imagine how you can stand with Russia, being a part of Europe or you being a part of NATO. So we have a lot of challenges, but these last 15 months have shown that we are very capable. But one point before enlargement, we should reform the decision-making process in the EU. If we get more, countries in with vetoes, we are in big trouble. And we see we are in big trouble even with one country which is called Hungary. Yeah, and so far we have to really show that we are strong enough. Consensus is a very good principle, but veto is not a good principle anymore. I would like to have consensus in all countries in Europe, but I really object any country in Europe saying veto. What we can see in Security Council in United Nations, the veto is not anymore a tool. It's destructive instrument, not positive instrument, you know. And if we go back to the world order, now we have a world order without any order, without any international laws. The only law Russia is respecting, or let's say any institution Russia is respecting, the veto in Security Council in United Nations. That means it works for Russia, it doesn't work for the whole globe. So I'm open to any discussion.
Thank you so much, President Zatlers, for your remarks. I will, before opening the floor immediately to your questions, I'm going to still abuse my position as a moderator. You both spoke of European Union as being on the track of positive developments. President Bahor, you said about the constitutional reform, which is possible, and there are positive signals. President Zatlers, you spoke about the monetary power and expanding the monetary power of the European Union. So here's a small provocation. If Russia is now a threat which is pushing us all together, if China is the challenger which is again pushing us all together, so would you say that the dark days of the European Union disagreements are coming to their end, or what new dramas can we potentially expect? Because we see there are domestic differences in opinions. Hungary was mentioned, but if we look at the bigger projects, bigger integration projects ahead of us, do you see that the countries are going to be more like-minded than ever before? More closer than ever? Ever closer union? President Pahor, maybe you could start, please.
Well, listen, it is what I see and it is what I hope. As I said, I hope so very much that there will be a political will and there will be a wisdom among 27 and tomorrow maybe 30, 31 countries to go on with constitutional changes to make our unity more dynamic, more successful, both inside and outside. I cannot imagine European Union to be a global leader if we would not come closer to some solutions about our unity inside. Yes, I think that there is a historical need. It is a historical need for European Union to go on with its own reforms, institutional, others. Many could be achieved without institutional reforms. I used to be the prime minister during the financial crisis, and I had an opportunity to see that we could be, successful also making some improvisation, but to be strong enough for the challenges of the future. I think now the time has come to consider the possibility to go even more united towards the future. There are several reasons. Security, number one, welfare, number two, technological and scientific development. But basically, I would stand by two reasons: the quality of life for all of us, and the security. So yes, I think there will be a political will at the end of the day for some changes, and so the development of our union will go on. And this is an optimistic view that I would like to share.
Thank you. So political will be there. President Zatlers?
You see, we have no other option just to become closer, and in my way, I would do like that, I would accept regional consultations in the beginning, like having Baltic-Nordic consultations, Balkan consultations, Visegrad group consultations. And we also have to see the change in Europe, the change of driving forces, and we must not care about that France and Germany must be the driving forces forever. They are driving forces, but Poland and Ukraine together might be another driving force. So, and then we go back to the bilateral relations between Ukraine and Hungary, relations between Poland and Germany. So there are a lot of, let's say, historical sentiments behind these relations. We should get rid of these historical sentiments. We have find some, let's say, moral instruments how to get rid of these historical sentiments. Just like a question, if, let's say, NATO apologizes Serbia for bombing Belgrade many years ago by saying that was a mistake, there's no big sense. I would say the question goes to you, Can you imagine that? And can you imagine how it will work? Because I just remember when Croat President Josipovic and Serb Boris Tadic went to Srebrenica together, and it solved a lot of problems because of moral instruments. They brought moral responsibilities and moral responsibilities for future, saying we understand we did bad things in the past, but today's, let's say, dangerous world forces us to be very polite, in a high moral, apologize to each other if there is something about to apologize. What do you think about that?
Wonderful, wonderful that you're starting a discussion.
May I say
President
one
Pahor,
thing?
if I may, I'm going to throw in one more provocation, and we start with President Zolters this time, and then you can respond also to his question and my question, and then I finally open the floor to the audience, which is eagerly awaiting to ask their provocative questions, as I already see. We're still on the European Union page, so here is the provocation. Politically incorrect, I apologize immediately. You're both very experienced politicians. You're very knowledgeable and skilled in understanding how the global complexities work. So the next EU enlargement, will it be to the Western Balkans or to Eastern Europe? President Zolters.
It's $100 million question, because we have to find the right balance, not to create a situation that the Balkans say, oh, you prefer Ukraine or Moldova, and the Moldova and Ukraine say you prefer the Western Balkans. We should say we are all equal in European Union, and we are all equal in Europe. So it must be a very balanced approach according to a key requirements. There are also ideas that if somebody is ready, to fulfill some of these requirements, the European Union may offer them to join on definite, areas. Let's say bringing them closer to the European, at the same time giving a right, let's say, expectations that Europe is waiting for you. To avoid this very nasty thing that, oh, those Europeans, they don't want us. This is very stupid, because sometimes European politicians just make statements. That or that country will not become a member of the European Union in next coming 30 years. It's a stupidest, statement any politician of European Union can pronounce. We have to, anytime you are ready, anytime we are ready, and we are going to decide it together.
Thank you. President Pahor?
Listen, I think one thing has been changed dramatically. The nature of the enlargement. A couple of years ago, a couple of decades ago, enlargement has been more or less, technical, political issue. Now it is geopolitical issue. This is a major change. So the answer to your question, where to go first, to everywhere. Whenever somebody would be ready enough, we should just, go with the enlargement. I would like to see Western Balkans included in the European Union, because I think that would inspire good processes there, from the reconciliation that my friend has mentioned before, and it is extremely important, to the question of security. So once again, I think the time is running out in the Western Balkans. If we would not deliver there this policy, I think we will lose Serbia. I don't know what will happen in Serbia in the next couple of months. We are now facing demonstrations there. The opposition is stronger once again. I don't know what will happen, but nevertheless, however, we should inspire our friends in Serbia to look to Brussels for the solution, not to Moscow. If we will neglect them, I think that both emotionally and politically, they will opt for Moscow. That would be a huge mistake, because then the question will be opened about Republika Srpska in Bosnia, then the north of Kosovo, and maybe, in a way, sui generis, the question in Montenegro. So let us focus on Western Balkans. But saying this, I would like to say it very clearly. There is Moldova to have this country on the table, Georgia, and definitely Ukraine. I think we've made an excellent decision by offering Ukraine the status. This is a strong message to Putin. And just one additional thing, it's not that NATO is threatening Putin. This is a consensus view on his concerns. I would say democracy is even more important for him. Do not forget that he decided to intervene in Crimea after, the debate on enlargement of EU to Ukraine has been started. So I think democracy is the key words here. We should go there. The enlargement process now is a geopolitical process, and we should follow now the strict lines in this context.
Absolutely.
So I just want us to tell the people who are still hesitating to take the right geopolitical side. If you prefer Russia, Russia is keen on creating frozen conflicts. That we all know already for 30 years. And the European Union is keen on stabilizing the situation and bringing peace. And that's the difference. What do you prefer? You prefer, frozen conflict forever? Or do you prefer, stability and good environment for development?
May I ask one thing, my friend Valdis?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Listen, what is, in your view, the definition of success for Russia in this very moment? What would you say it is the definition of success for Putin?
I don't see any success for Russia in next coming decades because the success must come from inside Russia, from the population. And I always say that the wars are started by presidents, kings, and emperors, but they are ended by people. And the question when the Russian people will be, let's say, tired of war, nobody knows. Because the Russian propaganda has prepared them for long-lasting war, including 10 or 20 years. We have to listen to what Mr. Putin says. There's not too much room for success. In our, let's say, according to our criteria, maybe Russia thinks it's a very successful country, Russia survived sanctions, Russia survived, let's say, in next coming days, maybe, the Ukrainian counterattack. This is a very relative answer. From our side, success would be, when the people of Russia decide to become something else, not just, a Tsarist Russia.
Thank you, thank you. I love when the discussion already starts taking its shape. I will immediately give the floor now and introduce more speakers and to the audience. So we have Dr. Andris Spruds, the former director of the Latvian Institute of National Affairs and currently the chairman of the European Affairs Committee of the Latvian Parliament, with his next provocation.
Thank you, Carlis. It's excellent to have a event also during the summertime and bringing a new perspectives, namely the Latvian and Slovenian perspective. I think, as President Zalters mentioned, two similar countries but placed geopolitically, geographically in two parts of Europe. And I think it's always good to bring synergies together and realize how we think in a diverse community of like-minded, but same time still with different perspectives, at least geopolitically as well, at least on some of these perspectives. And of course, it's always a huge pleasure to have two presidents and Valdis Zatlers, of course, always with very refreshing and creative insights on how we should look at things. And that's why, as I said, it's a pleasure and honor to have both presidents on a panel. Usually, I think I could dwell quite deeply on the European Union developments, taking into account, as Carlis mentioned, I am now in the position of chairman of European Affairs Committee, and we every day come with new angles and new developments, and it also shows how multifaceted European Union is. But not going into sort of the depths of discussions from my side, I would still be very happy to hear the distinguished speakers and their insights. I will be very short this time. Just one question. Does the European Union need a strategic autonomy? And if yes, what kind of? Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to go first? Does the European Union need the strategic autonomy?
Well,
President Bachar, you look like you don't understand why is there a question raised even like this. Please.
No, I think it's obvious. I mean, there is already a consensus on this. I think that everybody's in favor of such a decision, which will come, step by step. But yes, I think EU deserves to be, autonomous, and it is a long way to go there. But step by step, I think we will reach it. As I said in my opening remarks, NATO. This is the Western world together as far as the security is concerned. But Europe to go by its own way. It's not going against United States. It is to go with the United States to reach some sort of its own responsibility for our own security. I think this is the possibility, and I hope so very much it will be a reality.
I really don't like the term strategic autonomy. That means we are small, autonomous for something much bigger, or a part of something bigger and being just autonomous, I would prefer other terms like, European strategic vision, or let's say, or European geopolitical strategy. Something that which is focused just on Europeans, without this word autonomy, And always I'm a little bit, surprised that the term comes from French. And the French never wanted to be autonomous. They wanted to be a leading country, And they are, nuclear power and all the other things. But in a substance, yes, we have to really find and write down European geopolitical strategy. And it's again, geopolitics means European power strategy in a global affairs.
Thank you. Anybody else who wants to? Yes, please. You're gonna be passed the microphone. Here's the microphone. Please introduce yourselves for the online audience.
So President Zatlers, so you mentioned the need to attract the global south. So what initiatives would you say would be best strengthening the ties between the south and the north, or at least the global south and the global north?
And you are representing?
Sir?
your name and...
Sorry. My name is Thad Warren, and I'm a student.
Excellent.
Yeah. Sorry, this is my first ever seminar, so I'm a bit nervous right now.
No worries, we all are.
At first, I will say it again. We are in a situation that the BRICS and let's say China and whatever Russia, nothing to say about India, they try to create an alternative global currency to US dollar. So, but I am sure that the global south likes the idea, but they will not like the implementation because it's just a change from US dollar and dependence on US dollar to, let's say, the dependence on Chinese currency. And that's not what the global south want. So therefore, we have to understand there are only three big centers, United States, China, and European Union, which can make the global geopolitics a reality. Not on a paper, but a real influence, a real, change for better. And therefore, I think the first thing is to strengthen the euro and offer euro as a global currency. The second point is that Europe spends a huge amount of money on assistance to African countries. At the same time, no African country says, thank you very much, Europe. They say, thank you very much, Wagner. Thank you very much, Putin. And sometimes even they say, thank you very much, Chinese. But we have to find out why it is so. And then it's again the question of perception. And still, a lot of countries in the global south perceive, Europe as a colonial power. And they never perceive, Russia or China as a colonial powers. And these two countries play very effectively on a diplomatic arena about this, again, very, very historical sentiment. So we have to offer something which is a little bit different than just helping, giving them money, and with the conditionality, but usually they don't care about the conditionality, They like better Chinese, which give money without any conditionality. So I think we should create something that seems very, very attractive to the global south. I mean, economically and financially.
Thank you. I would add my 5 cents to this. I guess we are the ones who see Russia as a colonial power, and probably nobody in the world, well, maybe besides maybe Korea or some other neighboring countries in Eastern Asia, see China as a colonial power. But to be honest, I think not yet. We are still to see the developments. Do we have more questions from the audience immediately? Yes, please, Oliver Morvinsky, the head of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation here in Baltic State.
Thank you, Carlos, for the introduction, and thanks, Presidents, for the interesting discussion. My question goes, when we speak about geopolitical realities, about the next event which is coming up and which is defining also geopolitical realities and the future, the NATO summit. And my short question would be, what are your expectations from this NATO summit? And I'm not meaning the wishing list, as we all have, but what are your expectations with regards to the outcome of that?
Thank you. President Pahor, maybe you could start with what in your mind should be the expectations from the upcoming NATO summit?
Well, in particular for this NATO summit will be increasingly important how the NATO will define its assistance to Ukraine in the war against Russia. Before I've asked my colleague about the definition of success of Russia in Ukraine. I'm afraid that for Russia would be enough to frozen conflict there. So if this is a definition of success for Russia in Ukraine, what is a definition of success for Ukraine itself? Should be that no Russian soldier will remain in Ukraine. We know how sensitive this issue is, but basically here around it is a definition of success for Ukraine. How far we are ready to go to assist Ukraine. I think we should go on, and I do expect from the NATO summit to define our assistance to Ukraine, to see at the end of this bloody war the victory of Ukraine.
Thank you. President Zatlers.
Let's go back to the year 2008, Bucharest NATO summit. In the declaration, there were words: Ukraine and Georgia someday will become member states of NATO, because Putin forced Germany and France not to give membership action plan to these two countries. At the same time, we had the last NATO-Ukrainian Council. And we had also a Russian NATO Council. There were a few Russian NATO Councils afterwards, but basically the NATO-Ukrainian Council was the last one. And why I'm talking about that, we had to bring back some instruments which have been forgotten for definite reasons. The first step would be the Ukraine NATO Council. Okay, we have now the Rammstein in the group here, but basically something that really discusses the future of security of Ukraine. One more point: nobody is offering Russia any security guarantees. That's a paradox, you know. If you look at the Chinese plan, peace plan, they really emphasize that Russia needs security guarantees. We don't know what we can offer, because the Russian, like say, perception of security guarantees is bring Ukraine to Russian Federation, and that's all. And it's not serious. So the second point is we should confirm this Bucharest declaration. Ukraine will become one day, and perhaps it's after war. But if we remember once more 2008, Bucharest was in May, Russia's attack on Georgia was in August. 3 months later, Putin understood that territorial conflict will be, a problem for Georgia to join NATO, and Crimea was done with the same idea. And I think we have to be very careful. We have to foster the military assistance and as well as human assistance to Ukraine, to restore this Ukraine NATO Council, not just Rammstein group. That means that the best do something and the Ukrainians come and listen. No, on a parity. They are equal partners. Something more? That would be nice enough. A few months.
Thank you. Jens Jägerman is former ambassador and researcher at the Latvian International Affairs.
Thank you, Carlos, for introducing me. I would like to ask a couple of questions. One, Cold War borders were mentioned. The question is, where would you place Hungary in these new Cold War borders? And what about Bulgaria? That's one question. The other question is, since Serbia has not been able to make up its mind for the past 30 years, why do you think they will change in the near future? And if they can, to what direction?
Thank you. Dear presidents, who would like to go first? President Pahor, maybe you. Where would you put current Hungarian and Bulgarian countries
both
in perspectives?
I will. I'm going to put both in EU. I mean, no question mark. I can understand the question, but the answer is a very straight one. We could have different views on serious issue, and we do have different views on very serious issues. I'm concerned, as many of us, but still there is no doubt about Hungary and Bulgaria. Both countries belong to EU. Now, it is a question about Serbia. Listen, it is a fair question. Why do we think now the time has come to a final decision after 3-4 decades, when Serbia has seated on 3-4 chairs with EU, with Russia, with China, with Middle East? Well, the whole international circumstances have been changed. So I think the time has come for Serbia to take a decision, and I can feel throughout my many discussions with President Vučić and others that they feel that the time has come, and I think there is a temptation to do a little bit more to go towards Brussels. But on the other side, Vučić is a victim of his own politics. He played with Russia, and now, the consensus among Serbian is that maybe Russia is the country to follow. I'm not sure about it, but this is the case at the moment, and that is why I'm, asking, inspiring my colleagues across Europe to do a little bit more to inspire Serbia and their public opinion to be a little bit more with European Union than Moscow.
Just a few, that was a very nice explanation, so I'll just say a few words about the Cold War. We have all a stereotype that Cold War was something very bad. It should not come back anytime. At the same time, if we compared the situation, geopolitical situation of today and that of the Cold War was controlled confrontation. After Cuban crisis, it was controlled confrontation. A lot of arms control treaties were signed, both between United States and Soviet Union, as well as like non-proliferation treaty of nuclear weapons. At the same time, Helsinki was present there about the respect of post-war orders. There was also a treaty about conventional arms in Europe. Today we have no arms control treaties. At the same time, we are in war. And that is a question about how we can provide non-confrontation situation between Ukraine and Russia without any arms control treaty. Okay, some people say the Korean scenario, 4 miles division line and that's all. I don't think so, that it would be so easy. Because I remember when Russia left Conventional Forces Europe Treaty, because Russia was reluctant to sign the Istanbul commitments. The argument was very simple. Nobody is going to say us where to place our armed forces on our own territory. That means on Russian territory. But we need a demilitarization line. So we have to work again diplomatically already today. What would be the guarantees of peace after the war is over? Nobody knows when the war will be over and what will be the success for Ukraine and for Russia, but we must understand the wars always end someday.
Thank you. As we're gradually running out of time, but we still have for one more, well, 2 more, okay, because I have my own as well. Please. Introduce yourself, and there's a question in the second row.
Thank you. Sofia Chiavi, McGill University and the Embassy of Canada. I have a question that you can take in many different ways. So to President Zattler's earlier comments, we see that the veto on the UN Security Council has hurt Ukraine, it's hurt Syria, and we can expect similar results from Taiwan because of opposing interests that we see from Russia and China and other similar actors. So how can we promote European and Western liberal democratic consensus and put trust in these sorts of institutions like the EU, NATO, and the UN when inherently divisive mechanisms, maybe not the veto, but similar mechanisms exist?
Thank you so much on the rule of law and multilateral diplomacy question. But I'm gonna, if I may, still again third time abuse my position here. I would because I was listening to President Zatler's and explaining the controlled confrontation during the Cold War period, and I was starting to think that it's maybe there is also a term emerging which could be controlled war or something like this in case of Russian attack on Ukraine. So my question is to both of you, and for you to also wrap up and to answer both questions at the same time. Will Russia escalate the conflict or drag it in the current form and intensity? So please, President Pahor, maybe if I may kindly ask you to go first.
Well, I think this is a fair question. It is a very important question. That is why I've asked before about the definition of success for Russia. I think it would be perfectly enough for Russia to frozen the conflict as it is at the moment in this context. So I'm not sure that Putin nowadays would like to, take over the whole country and all that stuff. No, I think that this kind of frozen conflict would, would be just enough for him to, in a way, explain the reasons for the invasion to his own public and to get what he wants. Because I think, basically, at the end of the day, it's not just about the NATO. It's about the democracy and EU, and he would like to prevent EU to become a member of EU, not just a member of NATO.
Zatler's your final remarks and answers?
I always listen to Mr. Putin very carefully. When he said that Ukraine is an artificial state and has no right to exist and could be easily divided, and it was 15 years ago, I took it seriously. And when people said that he's going to annex the whole Ukraine, I said, no, he wants to divide, like it was with Poland before the Second World War. And now, when he says that we are not in a hurry, Peter the Great was in war for 20 years. In the next speech, he says, we have not showed all our strengths. In the next page, he says, we are ready for everything, but these territories will be Russian. That means he is prepared for a long time, frozen, it will never be frozen. It will be real war for many years. So, and how to just get rid of this not so strategically smart idea. The change must come in Russia, because we have no leverage on Russian, let's say, decision-making processes. The Iron Curtain is already there. It is already there, and we have to acknowledge it as soon as possible. How to keep the communications line open? Okay, Macron tried, Scholz now will try again. What will be the end result? I don't think too much. Russians like conflicts. All their, let's say, development is based on military conflicts. And we have to come from much more, provocative, topics. Kaliningrad or Königsberg. There will not peace in Baltic Sea without demilitarization of Königsberg, or call it Kaliningrad, whatever you want. And we have to pick up all the legal, documents about the status of this piece of land and try to force Russia again to do something, at least demilitarize.
Thank you.
But we will see just opposite decisions. They will increase the military presence in the so-called western region of military forces. Very soon, very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, dear presidents, if I may say so. Thank you very much also to the great audience that we have today. We are very much on time. to wrap this discussion up on different spaces that we have been. This has been an excellent discussion space. The ALTUM Hall is an excellent discussion space, and especially those of you who are watching us and being present, please stay. After 15 minutes, we're going to be discussing the digital economy and or digitalization of economy, or meanwhile, a round of applause to the great speakers, great presidents on their remarks and explanations. Thank you so much. Your next moderator, Morten Hansen, is somewhere in the house, and the food is over there to your left.
Okay.
when somebody says so, yeah. Oh, I'm on already. Yeah. Okay. So, we should be ready for the second session, and I can certainly hear that my microphone seems to be working. So, welcome back for this year's second session, where, as far as I heard from the first one, I was not able to be part of all of it, but a lot of politics there, and politics could also be part of this year's second session. But we could also have something, I was about to say, that is more positive, namely a lot of cooperation. I am joined, or I have a panel here today that is going to help me very much, because me personally, Morten Hansen from Stockholm School of Economics in Riga, I am seriously digitally challenged. I don't know much about this here. My first mobile phone, or rather my first smartphone, I only got a few years back. I had sworn I would never have one, but you cannot escape those things. So I am also caught by the digital tide, and I look forward to hearing much, much more. But I have a panel here today that both takes me abroad to Slovenia and keeps me here in Latvia. It takes me to the public sector, but it also takes me to politics, and it takes me to the private sector. So without any further ado, I will introduce speakers shortly as we go along. I would rather than try to jump into it, a little bit like sort of the rules of the game, as I hope that they will be. Again, I'm liberal Democrat, so slight violation of the rules is not such a big problem for me, but a big violation of the rules and you will see my eyes start twitching, so not too much violation of it. But otherwise, I hope that we will have a very good, informed, but also informal talk here today about all these many, or at least many of the potential aspects of the digital economy, because as the program also has outlined it, there's a lot of opportunity for talk here today. So what I would like to do is to have my speakers give a sort of a short intro, where they stand, where they are, what they see, what they find important in terms of the digital economy, be it the politics of it, be it cooperation, be it aspirations, be it plans, what have you. But let's say if we could hold that within some 5-7 minutes per speaker, and yes, old-fashioned technology called a watch. We'll check out the time consumption per person. Then after that, speakers can have a few reflections on other speakers' comments, and then we would like to take questions from you in the audience, and then see also how that develops. And then I think, without any sort of further ado, I would like to switch to Slovenia, hoping that technology here works. It seemed to have worked earlier today, but very much hoping that it works. So, Mateusz Franges, you're the State Secretary at the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology in Slovenia, and I sincerely hope that you have heard what I said and that you can hear me right now.
Yes, I did. Hello.
Sounds very good. So, you are listed first in the program, and also out of simply being very nice and polite people, as we usually are here in Latvia, we think that you should go first. So please, your sort of 5, 6, 8 minutes of introductory remarks, and it's basically, free to choose as long as it's about digital. So please.
Thank you very much. Hello to Riga, to everyone. Yes, I believe we live in the times of deepest changes in the world economy the humankind has ever seen. A lot of it is driven by all the digital changes we face. Apart from climate, technological, security, political, geostrategic, all the aspects we see change and transform our industries and our economy as a whole. So we already saw what are the geostrategic aspects of those changes. The former presidents spoken about this aspect. But we also managed to see all the changes digital technologies will brought to our life forthcoming months and years. We always imagined that technologies will make our work and living easier, and that it will replace the types of work that are most physically demanding, unpleasant working conditions, hard labor, etc. But in the past months, we also experienced that, in fact, the artificial intelligence, for example, endangers the most creative jobs of designers, copywriters, translators, etc. So it is out of any doubt that these changes will be fundamental. And yes, as European Union, we need to see and face these changes in a strategic question. How can these changes improve our way of life, our way of producing things, our way of satisfying our needs, our way of performing and living democracy, of strengthening the inclusion of our society, etc. And I think, Mr. Hansen, that would be enough for my prologue into the topic.
That's fine enough with me. Thanks a lot indeed. And yeah, you don't know me personally, but if you did, you would know that somebody who is sort of efficient with time is somebody that I appreciate very much. So thanks a lot for your introductory remarks. We go along with the program as it was listed, so, and it actually follows the way in which people are seated here also. So next I would like to go to you into the summit. We could say this year we are in Latvia now, we are in the private sector, among other many things that you're doing. You are in the LIIA, and I have tried to sort of memorize it, but I better read it also because this is a pretty long name, I would say, Latvian Information and Communications Technology Association. Yeah, so it's very nice with the acronym, quite frankly. But so what do you look at in terms of digital transformation, digital innovation, digital this, digital that? Please.
We're in it up to our eyeballs.
Oh, we better do it digitally also here. Yeah, so if you switch up and then it should be okay.
Hello. Yeah, so we're in the digital economy up to our eyeballs. LIIA is the Latvian, Information, Communications and Technology Association. So it is an association of all the, or most of the companies that are involved in all three of these spheres, which are all kind of digital these days. The Latvian economy depends, about 6% of our GDP is from the digital economy, from the ICT sector, and it employs more than 40,000 people. So it has a very significant part of our economy today, and that will only grow. I also represent LIIA, which is a company that is deeply involved in digital issues. We work on language technologies, and as we know, then language is necessary and communications is necessary for the economy to run. Communications leads directly to commerce, and it is our mission to make sure that companies and people can communicate across all languages. So basically bringing down the digital language divide. And part of that is what's on everybody's tongue at these days is ChatGPT. We're not afraid. But we are in Europe, and it's important to understand that the European take, the European values in this sphere are a lot different from the other large global economic players, as was already discussed in the meeting before. So basically North America, Europe, China, each have a very different take on GDPR, on intellectual property rights, and all of these things have a very strong impact on the digital economy and how it will develop. And personally, we have, Tilde has a very close relationship to Slovenia. We recently signed an agreement with Joseph Stefan Institute and Ljubljana University for further cooperation. We have a couple of projects that we have together through the European Union projects, the European Commission project. So open to any, I think I hit most of the things that I was supposed to. So anyway, looking forward to questions. Thank you.
Okay. We're moving fast here. Very good.
Too fast? I can go on, really.
No, you're welcome to join again later on, right? It's going to be fine, right? Then we move to, public sector, we could say, certainly to politics. Joris Poots is a former Minister for Environmental Protection and Regional Development, but still obviously very active in politics. And are you also into the digital transformation?
First of all, it's nice to meet you, everybody. And I should say that's always tricky to be called former in some discussion. Prior we had this panel started, I said I'm a free man in a free country, so I'm not anymore in any state position, so I can express myself freely. It's sometimes risky, but in general I'm a big talker. So if the previous two speakers managed to keep in time, I certainly hope I will do as well, but I'm not sure. But yeah, when I was a minister, one part of my responsibility was also digital. There was a very huge portfolio, and one of the part of the portfolios was a digital transformation portfolio. The next government, which is now in place, they even more concentrated the responsibility for digital transformation, which is very good. Actually, I've certainly thought that at the time when I was there, when the responsibility was politically split, it wasn't the best idea. Take into account the effect the digital transformation has on all of us. And this is an area which is, there are a lot of things, and the previous speakers and also previous panel mentioned quite much the fact that we are in the era where everything changes at the same time, and both in security situation, international cooperation, in the way how we perceived international cooperation for many years, and as well as of course, on the big challenges of this time, which is the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, as well as the digital revolution, which is happening right now. I don't call it a crisis. You know, I'm a very optimistic person. I always tend to view everything that happens as an opportunity, not a threat. But maybe I'm still young, at least at heart. That's a way how I look at that. There are, of course, risks associated with every move we make. And then no matter how much of the time and energy we spend on countering risks, and how much of the time we spend on using the opportunities that it provides. In general, we, both Slovenia and Latvia, we live in the European Union, which is good at seeing risks and setting regulations at risks. Not so good at taking opportunities, especially in digital economy. In general, in digital economy, European Union is lagging behind. We're weak in comparison to United States, to China, to Japan. We're bad at automation. We're bad at digital skills. We're good at democracy. We're good at digital governance. We're actually quite good in public governance and mostly good at digital governance. Not all of the countries in the EU, if we quite frankly on that. I should invite everybody to try to establish digitally company in Belgium. Yeah, that's a quite interesting experience. But in general, we are good at governance, not so good at being competitive in digital world. And now we have new wave of digital transformation happening in economy. We will see a lot of happening in artificial intelligence. Everybody was afraid of ChatGPT. That's nothing in comparison with what will come. That's nothing. It's a pilot module. They're just training the module on us. And everybody in this room has tried to do it and helped it to develop. So the next wave will be much grander. What the AI will give to the economy, the opportunities. AI already works in economy. Everybody knows that. Morten mentioned the smartphones. They're full of AI already working that. How do they know what I want to buy? They know. And there's no one person sitting there and writing those, what kind of ads to show to you. That's an AI working, and everybody works on that. And then there's a next step for that, which is it will have a tremendous impact on the next wave of automation. We think that automation has already happened. Oh no, we've lost so many jobs in manufacturing to automation. But in general, the automation will be everywhere. Opportunities to do most of the job will be done by will be possibly to done by digital tools. And how we will. But for me, the most important part is what kind of attitude we, as Europeans, as Latvia, as Slovenia, will have to that revolution. Whether we'll look at that and see, oh no, we will lose our jobs, or we will look and see, what we can do for our kids to be more prosperous, to live in more prosperous, less risky environment where there is no climate crisis, no biodiversity crisis, which we can help solve by using digital things. We can solve many security issues using digital tools if we know how to use them and if we invest enough to develop skills for that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Mr. Putin mentioned that we shouldn't be afraid of ChatGPT, but my main job is to be a lecturer, and the past half year I have been afraid of it. Students, they have taken that new technology to them, obviously, right? Anyway, to get perhaps more hands-on, I mean, Eva Silinia, advisor to the Minister of Economy on IT or things related to innovation and digitization. We talked a little bit before we started, and you already started there outlining the plans that you have. So there are plans here in Latvia for development.
And, in Ministry of Economics, in digitalization we trust. And also we are drivers of economic transformation. So we have plans how to do it and how to benefit each of one person living in here. But first I'd like to start with a vision. Well, imagine tomorrow morning you're waking up and kind of feeling under the weather. You know, something hurts, something is wrong, what to do? And what if you kind of could pick up your smartphone? Well, let's face it, we have it. Just open an app and write, well, my stomach hurts a bit on this side, I kind of feel like this or that, temperature, so on. And then you kind of get a solution for it. It's actually what's happening in Saudi Arabia. So we write an intro, you know, having these symptoms. It goes to the central where there are some medicine workers sitting. They're kind of analyzing, seeing what kind of what doctor you have to go to, what systems have you check, and then I have the system where I have all those machines listed and where there's less line of it, where you can kind of have it also at this time. You go there, you make your procedure, and then next time you kind of get just what to do over your smartphone, your plan, how to regain your health. It's so much different than what you have in here. Because here in Latvia, you have to call your family doctor, you have to go to the doctor, you have to get your paper, you go to the medicine center, you do what you have to do, your procedure, and then you go again and again, and it's really annoying. So there's actually the possibilities are endless. We could really solve all the problems we have in health issues, and we have quite a few, as we know at the moment. And same about other things. So far, Latvian growth has been driven by cheap labor. We believe that those times are long gone. Well, after all, there were times we were kind of taking horses for agriculture, weren't we, right? So we have to do this. So in digitalization, it's kind of is helping for the people, and it's your as individual, it's your responsibility to learn digital, even if you are an elderly person, even if you are working some work at the moment, it's kind of not paid very well and not really digital at all. Well, this is your possibility to earn much more and live much better life. If you are enterprise, it's your possibility to raise your profits to the next level. And for this, here in Ministry of Economics, we have like 5 programs. 3 of them are already open. So if you are more interested in, please come to me and I'll explain about this. But system as it is, you go to the center, you make a test of what you need, and then you have a roadmap, and then you get support from more funding. And as a government, there's a lot of things we have to do. Actually, if seeing by the data, our enterprises are not doing very well in terms of digitalization, but in terms of state, we are actually already doing very, very well, and we are doing so much more in the nearest future. For example, we have like a unified cloud for all the data, so we have all those little systems of all the state companies coming in one place. So all the data will have to be put in just once, and otherwise, just being spread where they are needed. And we are having like special programs for helping people how to use eLatvia. It's like common platform for all the services. This platform, we're also using artificial intelligence to be more proactive on kind of offering what kind of services we are. So there are development going on, so on and so on. So I believe it is a future. Only we have to do it, do our duty as individual, as a company or as a state. And at the same time, we have to think of the other side. It was a bit of referring to what Juris was saying. Well, ChatGPT is my best friend, and but I have 2 kids in the school age. Of course, ChatGPT, it's like a dream come true, isn't it, right? And also those Google VR headsets just coming out where you can just look somewhere and just click and something happens, like pause the video or so on. It's the future, it will happen, but we have to kind of see what's the other part. As Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. What that means, we have to think of those technologies being abused, and we have to see what regulations have to be made so we are being protected, aren't we? Same about social networks. Well, if it were me, I would kind of restrict social networks till, I don't know, age of 14 or 16 at least, because it's not healthy for the brain at all, especially for young people. And it's kind of radicalizing society just because of the way algorithms are made. And if lots of people are spending lots of time in those networks, of course there are changes in society. And those are not for good. So we have to see what to do, and we have to make those changes before those technologies are so far as our social networks are, aren't they? Yeah, so those are my 5 cents. Thanks.
Thanks a lot indeed. First round is over, and I have my notes here. I got a lot of different information, so I think I should try to be a little bit selective before having what we could call second round. So far, my panel has been extremely time efficient. Thank you very much indeed, right? But from what I both have positive things, European values, democracy, and so on. Also negative things that we're behind, right? Also digital arms race, perhaps we will have. Why not start with something a little bit more positive? And this here that I have absolutely no clue about, but we are 27 countries in the European Union. But what can we do together? I mean, what is digital cooperation, for instance? We go to Slovenia again. Slovenia and Latvia are pretty far from each other, but what are your ideas? How does one cooperate on things like this? Isn't it 27 countries and 27 ideas in terms of digital transformation?
Well, if we want to work together, we have to first make a consensus on what to work together on. And I would like to refer to the Juris dilemma. So should we embrace the new technologies, or should we rather stay aside, talk about all the side effects and risks those technologies bring to our societies and people? Well, I'm really like to hear all the discussions about AI at the moment, AI, talking about all the side effects, but I really miss a European-wide discussion on opportunities, and I totally agree with what Mr. Juris had said. We know that globally, in Europe, we do not have a single IT digital technological giant like Google and others. But I would like to remind you, I'm old enough to remember search engines like Alta Vista, Netscape, or Yahoo. So Google wasn't actually the first. So if the invention or breakthrough of artificial intelligence in our way of life and our way of working, collaborating, etc., is a revolution as the invention of internet was, I would like to see this as a fresh start for European technological campus to build on this fresh start. So, in what way can we provide information based on European values with high protection of our personal data and everything we did? With the GDPR, which is a famous European success that asks of citizens their consent to manipulate their data. This actually is not the final task we have to do in this regard. So can we ask ourselves if in Europe we can make a new technological giant that will exploit the opportunities of artificial intelligence in the most productive, but also user, democracy, society-friendly way? This is the dilemma of the moment. Institute Josef Stefan was already mentioned here in Slovenia. We're very proud that in this institute, more than 200 PhDs intensively working and developing AI with quantum technologies inside. So yes, we believe this could be the next big breakthrough also for our economies within Europe and as national economy ecosystems. And we would really like to see the opportunities that will change all the risks and side effects, the new technologies.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I take it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry about that. Somebody had to be number 4, right? But not too bad. But if we do it like that, but then later perhaps we could be a little bit less. We could also go the other way, perhaps. Yeah. But you, private sector, any cooperation out there with Europe or any ideas of it?
Absolutely. Previous speaker made some really, really great points. The question was 27 countries and what can we do together? We can do an awful lot. We know what the competition is. We know that the competition is North America mostly, but also China very heavily. And they have different values and they have a different legal framework because the three kind of pillars for the artificial intelligence, communications, industry innovation are three. So data, IPR, GDPR, and computing power. And we have vastly different positions in all of these three. So for data, it's open data, and that is, data is what makes these technologies run. So the more data, the more advanced these technologies become. But the data alone is not good enough because unless you can crunch it, you're not going to get anywhere. So you need the computing power. And also to get data, you need to be able to either ignore or get around intellectual property and GDPR regulations. So I think that what the EU can do, all 27 countries together, is they can reassess, because it's always going to be the values system, so it's going to be privacy versus commerce. Always a pushback, always a push and pull. So business would like the GDPR and the IP regulations to be loosened because America has a slightly different take on IP. So basically, company like Google or Microsoft can take the contents of the Library of Congress and dump it down into their computers and crunch it. In Europe, we need to get IP, intellectual property right, agreements with all the authors that still have their intellectual property rights. So there are issues where we probably have huge amounts of data because we're not that small, but much of it is siloed and it's not really as available as it could be for creating these large language models that ChatGPT is a part of. And computing power, and again, for the 27 countries, I think it would be awesome if the European Union, we spend a lot of money on all sorts of research initiatives, and we have a lot of great research results. Unfortunately, many of them are developed, and then they get picked up by the United States companies. Many of them, Google has picked up so many scientists from, for instance, from Dublin and from, as a example that comes to mind. These technologies get developed, and then the US, Google or somebody swoops in and pulls the scientists away, or they buy the technologies. And it would be awesome if the European Union could invest in these data parks, the computing power, and make it accessible to all these SMEs who are involved in the research part, to give them a place where they can use this computing power, because it's huge. I mean, you know, Microsoft computer parks and Google computer parks, it's very difficult for us, an SME or even a large size European company, to build something like that. So I think since the European Union is probably a little bit more public sector oriented to support business, I think that would be a huge step forward. All right, that's it for me. Did I answer the question?
You had some good points, definitely. I think it's hard to answer questions here today. Yeah. But so you're sort of indirectly saying we should have some sort of Silicon Valley here, yeah? Yes. That was a yes, yeah. Joris, also to you again. We will come back to this, which I really noticed that you had this here. We're not so good at digital skills, but I think I would have that as a second round. But at first this year, the more positive one about how do we cooperate on this here? Are we really, or are we in trouble by being 27 countries, whereas the United States is one, and China is so obviously also just one, and very much run from the top and down?
First of all, I'm on the third spot on this panel, meaning I'm on a bronze spot, which is very heartwarming for Latvians in this spring. But this is a completely different subject, not based on this discussion.
A good one.
I should say, if you said that there's a fourth place, I'm meaning I'm in the third. Yeah, that's a bronze spot, or bronze nation. Yeah. But in general, I would say that there are big things and small things. As I said, the EU is good at regulation, not meaning that the regulation is good. We love to do it. This is our thing. And GDPR is a regulation mentioned previously. We, as Europeans, what have we gotten as a regular European? What we have gotten from this regulation? In general, opportunity every single day to push a button, some 20 or 15, depending on your digital mindset, times that you allow all the cookies to be used. Because nobody else pushes any other button there. Allow all the time, all the time, all the time. Why it is necessary? It was necessary because those IT companies will take the data from the people and use it for their profit. So the people should have the control. They will need to have decide whether to give the data or not. So they are deciding 99.9% of the time to give data for free to anybody. Because it's not a way how actually engage people in managing their data. They're not managing. That's a bureaucracy. Nothing more, nothing less, just a bureaucratic requirement. That's what we're good at. What we're not good at creating digital single market. We don't have any digital single market in Europe. We don't have any. We are going for 15 years towards digital single market. And we having a lot of thoughts, a lot of discussions, new acts on how to do it. But in general, the movement is very slow. There is there are a lot of restrictions, and that's a big thing. But at the same time, very small thing. Why I'm able, with my Netflix, as a Netflix user, to see completely different movies in France, in Germany, and in Latvia? Why I have a different opportunity to order goods from the same seller, depending on the address where you live in one European Union, where in theory we have a free movement of goods, free movement of services. We don't have any. In digital world, there are completely different eras for everybody. And why is it so? Let's be quite frank. I don't use an example of Latvia or Slovenia in that way. Use somebody else. For example, Germany. Germany loves Deutsche Telekom as government. They give, I'm very free, I'm a free man in a free country. They give shitty service, sorry for the word. I know you have been in Germany. The unbelievable, in Latvia, it's 10 times better. 10 times better. You can drive from Stuttgart to Munich. There's a huge, unbelievable autobahn. With cars, everything is very good, and no connection whatsoever. That's yeah. That does mean even the automated parts of the car are struggling to do it. Yeah, at the same time. But at the same time, they're doing. Yeah, we need to protect, not to give opportunity for somebody from within the European Union to come in this market and be a competitor to Deutsche Telekom. So the question is, why we need to protect, and that's not only Germany, be quite frank, most of the countries in EU does that. Why then, in the end, when there come new innovators, new startups, and they are happening in Europe all the time, why in the end Deutsche Telekom doesn't buy them? They're rich. They have a lot of money, but they're protected. They're protected. They don't need to grow. Government will take care of them. They're good. Everything is good for them. No competition whatsoever, or very small. So they don't need to innovate. That's the difference with Google or Alphabet or anything in US. Yes, in the United States there are completely different problems that we will experience in the future. They have grown very big. Those companies have grown very big. Their pool of data they collect is unbelievable. Their power over regular consumer is unbelievable. And now they are the door to enter the market. If you want to be a digital, sell something on internet, you cannot do it without the help of Google. Google provides everything. You cannot do it anymore. So that's a different area where most probably Europe should regulate. We have all the necessary regulation in place. That's a competition regulation. We already have all the power given to EU to regulate. This is an area where they need to work. Whether we need to put another GDPR regulation, I'm not so sure.
Thanks a lot. Lack of competition, yeah, sure. And I like this one, no digital single market. It's good food for thought. Yeva, when you make your strategy or you and people make the strategy in the ministry, do you do that in cooperation with other EU partners? Or how does it?
Yeah, there are strategies we do.
Yeah?
For example, we have this work group for Baltic Sea region, so basically Nordic and Baltic countries.
Okay.
We have set on 9 goals, to name just a few, like it's digital first or once only principle, it's reducing administrative burden and so on. So we have like goals we are working to. But I wanted to emphasize that EU is very diverse. there's not no country that are similar, and are so different problems in France and Germany and in Latvia and in Slovenia. And what we are different from, like being small countries, we are much more complicated in terms of e-commerce. If you know the data, we are not ranking good in e-commerce. And for example, Germany is ranking good and so on. It basically depends on logistics network. Because for me to order something from, I don't know, from Germany, for example, they'll be like happy to send it to me, but they have to know legislation of Latvia, what it happens, what can one do, and so on. And it's always this one extra step, but it's a bit too much for large companies like Amazon, because they make like this local logistical network in one country. They make like Amazon.de or UK or or whatever, and then they kind of all the small companies can go in with just their products, and in just their product or the service, and the network is there for them. And that's a system it's actually lacking in here, because it's not really monetarily profitable to make a network in such a small country, right? But if you would make it in several countries, then you have to take into account all the legislation. All the legislation changes, and as you said, well, we'll have to regulate. We'll have to put all kind of regulations, and we kind of have to change them as well. And there's all this legal power needed. And I see this as this empty window of opportunity could be actually seized, like taking small countries, getting once through all those legislation differences and make this logistical network so we can open this e-commerce network, for example, for Baltics or for Balkans or sometimes perhaps even for a bigger region. And that would be profiting quite a lot for digitalization for us.
Okay, thanks a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm starting to understand these things better, right? I mean, I'm very conservative in all sorts of ways, but still I get some good ideas out of this here, right? The way in which we think about the European Union, at least the way I think about the European Union, is we have common values to a large extent: freedom, democracy, human rights, and so on. But digitally, we're just not the same, it seems, right? And I very much agree with that. And therefore, I think this way of thinking about it, with the lack of a digital single market, that's a very good one to have. And also very strange to hear what you say, but in terms of e-commerce, well, there should already be a single market, right? I mean, we the movement of goods and all of that, but it seems that it's quite frankly not there. That brings me to my next sort of topic, but again, feel free to add other things, and inspired by your words earlier, we better start with you, Yeva, this time around, right?
That's the idea.
And here to take up this one a little bit more sad one, Juris brought it up earlier, right? Saying that we're not very good at digital skills in the European Union. What is lacking? Why are we behind? What should we do better in terms of improving our digital skills? My digital skills included, so please tell me.
We should learn it.
We should learn. I was about to say, I forgot to say that, but please don't give me the simple answer that says we should learn. We should learn, and then tell me how to do it. Yeah.
We have to accept that it's happening. I was in this famous festival in Latvia, Lampa, in this weekend, and we have discussion on all the modern terms and how to be rich and happy and smart and so on. And there was this question from old lady, and she was asking, well, I'm of considerable age, and this IE, should I really learn it, or perhaps I can just leave it for my grandson, And what the expert on technologies, Richard Blesse, answered, he said, well, if you plan to live for another year, please do it, because it's here. You have to do it. It's just necessity. If talking about Latvia, well, that is not really well at all. For basic digital skills, it's for at least around half of population. So there is a need. Well, the good news is that there's also a ways. There are programs for learning digitals, also in Ministry of Economics, also on State Employment Agency, and also there will be this new program by Ministry of Education, where it'll be 400,000 people will be educated on not just basic skills, but skills how to use state services, because we are going to this digital first. we are going to this digital platform of Latvia, where you can get in your one digital space. If you need assistance, of course, there will be like centers where you can go, like, with your paper and ask, please help me out this time. But it is a future. You just have to kind of accept it and expand yourself and do it more and more and more. For example, my mom, she'll be like 70 this year. She's a doctor and she's doing everything digitally. She always, not only do her work digitally, she like communicates digitally, calls and so on, use state services, hands in projects. She also posts like those stories on WhatsApp. I really don't know how to do it, but it's a future. We just have to accept it, because we're mentioning this ChatGPT, right? But at the moment, I think do you know how this algorithm works? It kind of gets first letter, and then it kind of looks for the next most probable word, and then it gives them more and more and more, and then kind of get coherent text. Imagine what will happen when this program will be switched together with search engines. It's actually the next step. It'd be like mind-blowing. And same about those VR solutions, it also be mind-blowing. In a few years, we won't be going to the conference as this. We kind of have like our avatar sitting in here, and we can kind of perhaps adjust a bit or how we're looking, kind of put our best filters on and so on. It's about be like teaching, universities, schools, all the work environments and so on. It's coming here, and better to be in front wave, and as Europe, it's better to be like the ones developing those technologies, not just kind of using them. And same about our kids. I used to say that, programming is, these 6 packs of these times you have to program. But at the moment, seeing what ChatGPT can do, it's changing a bit. You have to go one step further. It's not enough because program can be written for you, but you have to be able to put on all those solutions by how this program looks. So it's a whole level, knowing how to write those prompts. So they are changing all the environments, not only education, not only work and so on. Because right now we don't need skills how to find in some kind of books some information of castles somewhere in Spain. We need how to write correct prompts, so we get just what we need from all the different programs we have for us. And that's, just for us, if we want to live fulfilled life, we have to do it. It's same about old people who are saying, oh, digital, not for me. Well, do you want to see your grandkids daily? Well, FaceTime them.
Right.
It's about motivation.
Yeah. I was sort of a little bit scared when I came here today because of this topic and so on, right? And now I'm even more scared and so on, right? Carlos, we are not really with questions yet. So if you can wait a little bit, right? Rather, the super democratic way says that we still have 3 people who should say something first. But I intend to go to questions fairly soon, right? And I'll do this very annoying thing which I really hate what moderators they do when they say, oh, I have the privilege to ask the first question. But most likely that's what I will do. Let's wait and see, right? But Yuri, please, why is it this year? You put it up this year. Why are we bad at digital skills? What should we do about it? And don't say that we should learn. We should, but how? What? Why?
In general, I actually believe that we are, especially in the field of digital skills, we are in the area we have discussed for almost 10 or 15 years. It's a large, even philosophical debate around digital divide, that some will be left out because they don't have skills, and some will prosper enormously because they have. But I personally believe that actually because of this rapid advancement of AI, we will see a much smaller amount of problems around that. To be digitally active 15 years ago, you needed to have skills to write in word processing program. There were a lot of things you needed to learn how to do it smoothly. I personally believe that in a year or two, nobody from us will write anything anymore, typing something in QWERTY type of. text to speech, speech to text. We will just tell, everything will be written. We'll tell send there, and it will answer you where send. Why do you need that? How we can help you? And this will be an enormous opportunity to tackle those groups in society which are most left out in digital arms race. And these are not older people. In Latvia, in Lampa Festival, I talked to Ingemārs Puķis, many of here know, the vice president of Latvian mobile telephone company. And he said in age group more than 65, almost 85% of the customers have smartphones. And of them, more than 75% regularly use more than 8 apps a day.
Oh, yeah.
So there's not such a big problem. There is small, of course, there's 75%, there's still 25, and then 15 you can call that. There's a group. But there are group, for example, people with mental health issues, and we cannot leave them out, and this is an ongoing big problem. And this is this an opportunity. The AI can help, which normally would require an assistant to sit with the person and feel them not fully into society, but they can, with help of technology, be fully part of society. Not today, but not anymore in 10 years' time. In a year or two. This is enormous development, and especially those in low digital skill part. I think the problem will be solved enormously. Quite different problem is with a very high skill. There is a risk that the AI will put them out of the work. Already nowadays, people with programmers are replaced by AI programming units, and this is a very interesting development in general. No. That's an issue that will not come as a big problem in a year or two, but maybe in 10 or 15 years we will see a completely different situation here. In general, I believe that the advancement of artificial intelligence will require us humans to know less about IT, how it works, than more. It will require us more to know what we can do about it and how we organize it. And it's a completely different skill set. And that's an opportunity for us as humans. We should try to use it.
Thanks. You, Indra, if comments on this here, and again also, do you feel that we're behind or?
Wow, there's so much to unpack in these last two colleagues here speaking. A couple of things that I picked up. Are we behind? I think in comparison, like traveling across Europe, thanks to the Schengen zone, I think that what I experience in Latvia and Lithuania and Estonia, I think we're ahead of the curve when it comes to skills. I mean, if you've been to France or the much aligned Germany here, you'll realize that we are like light speed ahead of what, have you tried to use the internet in Paris? I mean, just shoot yourself. It's pointless. And here we're just so spoiled because the internet is high quality, it's very accessible, it's very cheap. So I think that I'm always the optimist. I think that we're doing actually pretty well. I don't agree with the fact that the digital divide will disappear. I think the digital divide is a problem. And as much as Mr. Puķis says that 70% of over 70s are active, I think that as our populations age, especially across Europe, we will need to see how the equipment that we use needs to change. because my father is going blind. He's 95 and a half, and he has a whole community on Facebook, and he's on there every day. But he's using this huge screen right now. As he loses his sight, it's harder and harder for him to like keep up and stay up, while it becomes more important for him to be able to communicate. You know, it's not like the old rotary phone where you know where all the numbers are. It's really a lot harder with smart equipment. And I think that next challenge is making sure that our senior citizens and people who have sight and hearing impairments and other impairments don't fall into the digital divide. I think the digital divide will be a little different. And of course, you said, again, Mr. Poutsa, speech to text and text to speech will solve all of our problems. It will, as long as we keep our language technologies, as long as we keep investing in language technologies, because my father, okay, he would, but somebody else's grandmother will not be able to use technologies in English. So we have to make sure that all of our digital technologies are in line with our national languages, because if they're not digital, they're not. So basically, I'm all positive. I think that our, here in the Baltics, I think we're really ahead of the curve. We just can't fall behind.
And then switch to Slovenia. Do you feel the sort of the similar issues as we seem to have here in Latvia, or are you also ahead in terms of digital skills, or do you feel behind, or anything you have? We don't know much about it, I think, not many of us.
Well, I believe the situation is quite the same. We can say that in the quality of a lot of services, we are ahead of the, let's say, European average. But of course, we also tackle the questions of the digital divide that was very good covered by my predecessors. But I spoken about the opportunities in the final round. And I would like to remind you that a lot of digital experts, also those coming from Europe, to Europe, from elsewhere, have no formal education or competences in digital programming. But they're experts because they were learning by doing. So I would advise that we experiment with new tools, free our imagination, how can we use these technologies, but of course to keep an eye on those with different kinds of disabilities or age, to be able to go ahead, so without leaving anyone behind.
Thanks. Then I suggest we start sort of slowly going towards questions, and the way in which I always like to do it, take it easy, Carlos, take it easy, Carlos, we'll be there, right? We have time and so on. Is that the usual thing, so people please state who you are, even though some of you are known by everybody, but I think it's just the right thing to do. Plus also, if your question goes to a certain person, then please, of course, state which person it should go to. You can also ask a question for everyone, but I would prefer that things, they are mostly questions and not so much perhaps statements. And if they're statements, then only the short ones, okay? There, no long speech. And then I do this super annoying thing, I can't help it, right? That I take the opportunity to ask my first question myself, right? And it'll just be, and it's very short, so it shouldn't be so bad, right? But you have mentioned it also, and I don't know if you have any further comments on it. That's mostly what I'm after, because this year I can translate into economics, which is my field. But some of you have mentioned this year jobs will be killed by this digital transformation. But I will say that for Latvia, I don't know about Slovenia, right? But for Latvia, that is a good thing. We have a declining labor market. The more I was about to say, the more we can kill in terms of jobs there in order to set labor free elsewhere in the economy, the better it is. Any thoughts about that, or agreement or disagreement?
I'd like to comment, as you know, in name of Ministry of Economics, we are looking so much forward. That, for example, imagine grocery store. We have this grocery store line, Rimi. Perhaps you have seen it, read once. Well, at the moment there are some Rimis with, for example, 4 checkers, four wonderful ladies sitting there and just checking out your groceries. You are paying them and going away. So there are 4 ladies getting paid. Well, I don't know exact numbers, but you could imagine. Well, I think it's it could be better. What we are looking for forward in future, there will be like lots of self checkout machines, and there will be like just one lady getting so much better salary in there because she's just overlooking those machines. This is what we are hoping for. And same about state. There are perhaps a bit too much people working in a state machine for, you know, the declining economy as we have. It has to be like same in Japan. We have to be like smart economy. It could be like shrinking, just if everyone can get better life and be like in better position and get more money. We don't believe in self-machine.
And here comes the disagreement, I think, from what I could read from body language, but there we are.
I so disagree with that. First of all, there will be some jobs will disappear. There will be new ones, completely different ones. For instance, you will not have the operators who answer, "Hello, can I help you?" There will be a chatbot there who will help you and work through it. But on the other end, there will be somebody who will be reviewing the chatbot's work and will be updating it and making it more thorough and so on. But that's still a rather high-paying, that's a well-paying job. I do not believe that a grocery store chain that shall remain nameless at this point will let go 3 people and give that 4th one a really good salary. I just don't see that ever happening. What does concern me, though, is that the people who are the grocery checkout people and so on, they do that for a number of reasons. For instance, perhaps because they have small people and they can set up their work times so that they can, you know, take their children to school and take them out, or else they don't have a very good education and they can run the cash machine or they can check. And we need to be very clear and have a really great plan how they will be able to make a living, because you're right, this is coming and it's coming really fast, but those are the people that have the least employment security, and we need to understand how will we even also help those 3 ladies who are going to be laid off, not to even mention the 4th one who's not going to get a raise, I'm afraid.
Well, I think it's state's responsibility to kind of push on being minimum wage being up and so on. So I think there are some things we can do. If I could share something on a personal note, on Easter holidays, I took my kids to a nice hotel, kind of to see Legoland, as my kids are very much into Legos. And it's my first time to see like there was no persons at the hotel. There was just a machine. Well, that's the future.
This issue and /fight can also go on when we get to the coffee again. But okay, comment, Yuri.
Just a small comment on that. I think in general it has already happened in human history. The industrial revolution, steam engine, automotive transport, that all has come and something has gone away. We don't have any stables in old Riga. It used to be hundreds of them. And with people working with horses, and the horse population has dwindled dramatically in comparison to 19th century. We don't need them anymore, and that's of course a sad fact. It would be of great value of entertainment if we had some 2,000 horses in Old Riga, but maybe not such a good odor coming from that. But of course, we will. Of course, it will change. I think the only risky part, and that's a thing for a government to think, is when the cars came. It took 20 years, and while it changed, and people can adapt easily within the 20-year period. We do it even in a shorter term, but could we do it in a year? That's a tricky thing. As COVID showed, not so well at adjusting at that kind of changes within a year. We did everything okay, but the scars stayed, you should say. if I look at the people in Zoom and I thought, oh my God, I was sitting for a year there. Unbelievable thing. But in general, this is a thing. How the change will be really rapid. I do believe multiple new job opportunities will arise. It has happened already in past. In a period where even population numbers will increasing, and in general in Latvia, the population number is decreasing still. So in general, and we coped with that, this is society, but there were protests. There were people who were against, who felt threatened, because the ability to change, of course, is not the same for every single person. And that's not a matter of education or attitude. It is dependent on how the person is built, and it's not so easy to change. So in general, there is a area to work, but it doesn't mean that you need to say we will need to pay everybody universal income because everybody will be out of work. No, very small number of people will be out of work. Most will work, but for those small number, we will need the help.
Okay, then I will try to sort of focus a little bit more on you in the audience to see where there might be questions. And I better give the first one to Carlis, because he already for a long time has looked like somebody who's waiting for Christmas gifts on Christmas Eve, right? So Carlis, please, let's see what you have to say and to whom it might be. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Martin, so much. I'm gonna abuse my presence as co-host of this event, also on this panel. So in this case, sorry about that. But I'm going to be asking question on your behalf partially, and also on my behalf, on everybody's behalf, because let's start with a short drama. I believe that when we are discussing computer illiteracy or digital divide or digital gap, we're approaching it completely wrong. Enough? And now I'm going to explain. You said no statements. I'm going to make a short statement, and then I hope the colleagues can delve into explaining me how wrong I am. I think we are wrong when we are thinking that learning computers is just learning like driving. It's not. We have an absolute mismatch between knowledge, skills, and technological development. In 20 years, we have went from PCs, which we had to learn how to assemble, put new parts in, to laptops, to iPads, to mobile phones, and now we're discussing that what's the next one. Try to imagine chips. See? Holograms. That's another one. Okay. So that is, yeah. See, and you are already mentioning the things that are gonna be important to learn. So there's a question we are asking from people to learn something that is becoming outdated day by day, and we already know that there are things that are going to be outdated. It's like, again, literacy, illiteracy. Can we ask from people, you need to learn to read in order to be functioning in economy, right? So read in Latvian. And at one point, next stage, we are immediately, but in Slovenian, it's a better language, let's use that. Oh no, wait, let's switch to Hebrew. Oh no, Arab world is the new one that we have to go for. No, China is emerging, so we should learn Chinese. And it's every time a person who is trying to learn the new technology is lagging behind. So there's a question, can we even standardize the moment in which we teach people? This is the basic. Can you tell what is the basic operating system? Exactly. What is the basic skill for the people to know? Do they need to know what computer consists of? What is motherboard? Is that important? It was 20 years ago. And so
I would say let's not take it, because it ends up with being very many questions. And from what I understand, Mateusz, you need to leave quite soon, is what I heard. So philosophical questions from Carlis.
It's not a philosophical, it's a practical question.
How can we overcome this? Yeah, but also sounds philosophical. Mateusz, do you have I think it's a difficult one, but do you have some comment?
Well, every big revolution had its fans and its opposers. And and every revolution had its winners and its losers. If we are a responsible society and if we are the responsible governments, we have to prevent and help those that will not be able to keep track on the new technologies. But otherwise, I would say if I would not like to see Europe as a conservative fortress being afraid of change. Digital technologies in all senses can improve our lives, can improve our services, can improve our products, can improve our economy, and finally our societies. Let's embrace it, and by doing so, of course, keeping track on all that we keep them on board. I'm really sorry for I'm in a need to disconnect now, being late for the next meeting. So it was a really big pleasure to be together with you digitally connected to Riga. Thank you very much for organizing this event as well as inviting. Thank you.
And thank you very much for joining us. And just one very last word, if he is still around, I'm not sure, but I really like this here that he mentioned Alta Vista. I became sentimental. I haven't thought about Alta Vista for 20 years. What about the rest of you? No specific order, but comments to Carlos, or you more or less answered him already when he was talking, right?
I think he answered himself, Carlos. The question is, people with PhD use that to do that. They don't want to hear answers. They want to speak. You know, that's their position. But in general, I think
we know the type.
Yeah. I know. In general, this is a discussion not about how we will live in that kind of society. We will cope, but many institutions will change a lot. I think the institution which will change the most, if you look at the future, will be school. We even don't know how it will work, because there is not because of ChatGPT which writes the essays before. That's not important. It's a time of essays. Then there will standardized tests. The education system adapts, but this is because of the fact that what do you actually want the person to know for it to be completely able to work and live in society. And most probably, many things the technology will make easier, because we don't need to anymore to do that and that and that and that. That's the AI or something even after that will do. But some things we will need to find the ways. There is no answer yet, but why we think that we need to have all the answers? This is a process where we are within it. It's a revolution, and it's happening. And within the revolution, you are just coping with that at one step at a time. Everybody does that. And everybody wants to have a stability and predictability. But unfortunately, it will never come.
A philosophical question got a philosophical answer. Very good. I think Gatis first, then we take Artis, and then you come as number 4, and then perhaps time will be out. Well, let's see, right? But Gatis is fairly short, if you can, certainly shorter than Carlos, right?
Thank you. Former Minister of Welfare, there's a topical question in Latvia why our economy is not doing as good as Lithuanian, Estonian, especially in the last 10 years. And one explanation is that, well, we have invested in the wrong sectors, like transit, like banking sectors, which have grown but then collapsed. ICT exports, a very, very good sector, I think, and we have seen in the past 5, 6, 7 years good growth, and you mentioned 6% of GDP, 40,000 employment. Could you give us, Mrs. Sami, maybe a trajectory, how you see in the next, say, 5 years, Is it going to be stabilized with those 40,000, or are we seeing some really good news, you know, that we can expect that this will sector will expand very greatly? Give us an assessment. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Great question. I think that we have an enormous amount of potential. Our universities are awesome. Hate to disappoint the people who don't like them. They turn out really, really fine researchers and programmers coming from Tilde. I mean, we have some 11 PhDs working, and so very high quality. And I think this is a sector that is, it will be a growth engine. The only problem is that all the jobs will not be automated, and we do need a lot of human programmers to get that AI up and running until it takes over, of course. But yeah, exactly, right. And then not all of us will be redundant. But I think that's one of the issues, and that's also probably an issue for an immigration issue. I know there are companies that are very involved in importing programmers from India, and we have a very, very noticeable lack of high quality, innovative programmers. Not just somebody sitting there coding, but being in the middle of the innovation process. That is what will drive growth, not body selling, but creating innovative solutions, because that's where the margins are, and that's where the opportunities are. And if we play our cards right, it will be a true growth driver for our economy. Thank you.
Okay. Artis then, yeah?
Former MP. I haven't heard in this seminar one word about the young people, how they are mentally affected already. Like when we were young, we read books all the time. Now they cannot read more than, 140 words? It's what you get on the phone, and that's it. One page, oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
And already they're thinking they cannot say a long sentence, only very short, that's it. Now, what's happening to us?
Anyone specific you want to add? I think it should go to the ministry, right?
I could. I was willing to share from my experience. I have two boys, aged 11 and 12. Well, I think it's example of parents. I'm reading a lot. I'm a bookworm, bookworm, and my kids are the same. My son has read his summerly books already. I think it's what you see in at home. If you see a parent who's like scrolling, just dumb scrolling Facebook all the time, don't be surprised if you see your kid doing the same. Show your good example. So there are still kids learning. There are kids speaking fluent English, listening audiobooks, and so on. We just have to spread more this good approach, good habits. Because as I said, social media are. It's a technology a bit spread like wildfire, and we haven't regulated it, we haven't thought about it, and there are quite a bit of, bad sides about it. We just have to kind of raise awareness, how to use it responsibly, how to live, like a deep, fulfilled life together with it, not selling our time to, those companies, getting back nothing, just, like playing with your hormones in the brains. So I think it's just raising awareness, but there are kids in the books.
Yeah, I'll just allow myself to say a little bit, since I'm a lecturer myself. English language, for instance, seems to just come in a somewhat different way. It doesn't perhaps come so much from your lecturer in the school anymore. It comes from YouTube, a lot of it. And therefore people, said, oh, yeah. And, but with suffering from this attention span among young people is perhaps not what it used to be. But again, is it because of this new stuff, or was it also COVID that did it? I think there was some impact coming from that, and we're not completely sure exactly what did what. Comment from that one, yes, and then it's your turn afterwards, right? Yeah, please.
I'm always feel motivated by the discussion how things were better in the past. I don't think so. the young people are better than I was, and I am also not capable of anymore sitting 19 minutes in a lecture. I already know that. I have tried. It's not possible. I don't know how I coped when I was studying. It's not possible. It's too long. And the movie industry has moved in the direction where every single movie now is 3 hours. I don't know why. I cannot sit through the movie anymore. That's not possible. It's too long. Fortunately, you just need to go sometimes with your kids to the movies. Most of the instances you watch movies at home, so you can just pause it, drink a tea, and get new strength to watch movie for another 2 hours. In general, the young people, they will. I at some point also thought, oh, how they will not interact with each other or something like that. They do it. They do it in multiple ways. They're more able to do it than we were. If they are shy, they can write it and not see the answer anymore. Then they can go on and speak, and they're much easier at establishing contacts than we were. And I'm not afraid that technologies will come and will rob the kids. They will be greater than we are.
Just before I take your question, right, then artists in Danish, right, you know, from Denmark, we have this saying about the good old days, that the good old days were definitely old, but not necessarily always so good, right? So please, your question, yeah.
X Brits is representing the Dutch embassy in Riga. I have a question to Indra Samīte. Of course, the former minister partially took away already the question, but anyway, it's can you name the 2 or 3 strengths of Latvian IT industry and also 2 or 3 challenges, the biggest for Latvian IT companies? Thank you.
Well, that's another good one. The strengths are, I would imagine, imagination and grit, because even our biggest IT companies are actually really small in the European context. And so I think they have a huge, real competitive streak. So innovation, grit, and good resources. Like I said, I think our universities are turning out pretty good IT specialists, many different types, whatever we need, programmers and architects and project managers. So I think that our basic resources are really good. We just don't have enough of them. And the second the part of the question? Challenges. Our size. I would imagine also access to capital, which is a huge problem. And EU regulations. For instance, data protection and things that I mentioned in the beginning, which don't give us access to all those resources that we need.
Officially, we have a few minutes left. There could be either a last question. If there's not a last question, then perhaps somebody in the panel would like to have a last comment. It's not obligatory, but if nothing, then it goes in that direction, right? What a surprise. Carlis has a question. Please, Carlis. Yeah,
I'm going to finish my lecture now. Quick question. Going back again to the professions which are going to disappear. Will university professors still be a thing? Asking for a friend. Friend's name could be Morten.
I think we could put up a poll, right, and put some, some bets on it. But I would bet on, they will. It just kind of will be different, because we have to teach people how to think. It's actually a Japanese approach that it's not matter what kind of higher education person has, it just has to have something, and then in the right company, it kind of make a person out of it. So they will teach how to make correct prompts in AI, how to develop those systems, how to think the correct way, and lot more other things. But I won't teach like facts. I won't teach like history, like in a book. It be like narratives and creative things and all those skills we need. Because in the future, well, we are a generation who cannot kind of be fine with what we know. We have to learn and learn and learn all the time. You know, like we just have to accept it. It is as it is, and just it will change. You know, the content will be different, and the environment will be different. I believe a lot of it will be like in this augmented or even virtual reality and so on. So yeah, you will have a job.
I think that makes it for quite good ending because
I can say it. I have also a cynical answer to that.
But I was just about to get so happy with the answer.
No, I will say
okay,
the not cynical part is there will be professors in universities, but they will not, most probably not teach the same things that they teach today. That's an easy answer. But the cynical part is, you know, this usually is very well connected profession. So EU is good at regulation. So we will have subsidized workplaces.
Okay. It was not as bad as I was afraid of, right? But I think it's a very good time then to finish because this professor here was just very happy to hear that his job is not going away, right? Thanks a lot for being here today, and especially many, many thanks to my panel. This is pathetic of me to say, but it was difficult to be moderator, not because of the panel, but because of the issues. They are big, diverse, and we don't know the answers to them and so on. I learned something here today. I'm very happy about that. So if you would be so kind as to give my panel a hand, then thanks a lot, right? I think final words will go to Carlis.
Will come from
no
me.
No questions,
yes.
right? Yeah.
No
yeah,
questions.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Thanks.
Extremely quickly. Thank you so much, dear panelists. This was a very intriguing and coherent and important discussion that we had. And Morten, thank you very much for well, it was you say it was a challenge for you, but you looked fluent in doing your job. So absolutely, thank you so much for this, dear colleagues. Thank you for staying. Thank you for being with us. Those of us still watching us online, being that on a beach or somewhere in a sunny cafe. These people who are here, they decided that they're going to be in person in this ALTUM hall and join us with your questions, which were splendid and excellent. Once again, many thanks to our Slovenian partners and colleagues for helping us to put this all together, for initiating this in the first place. It's been a tremendous pleasure for us. So in this case, there is still some food left, and so I encourage you to go in and jump in after the food for thought, some food for body. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks. And extraordinary thanks to Alexandra Palkova, my colleague, who put this all together organizationally. You did a splendid job as well. Sorry, almost forgot you. You started moving. So.